Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Gopi Sankaran. I'm the Vice President for Strategic Cloud Ecosystems here at Informatica. And first, I want to thank you for all your time. Appreciate you taking your time and in this massive conference to come and here to this session. So today, I have a couple of my colleagues who will also come and join me in this discussion, and we wanted to keep it as interactive as possible. So we'll do like a 30 to 45-minute presentation, but more on a demo of the solution around our data governance. And there will be a Q&A session after that. And so that is what I meant, as we'll have like a more of an interactive session. So the topic for today's discussion, this is a sponsored session, so we wanted to talk about is around democratization of data and how we at Informatica look at that as the intersection of governance and analytics. I'm pretty sure most of you are data professionals, data producers, consumers, data owners, and all, and this is a topic which you would have heard a lot. It is a very critical topic, especially for large enterprises. And that is primarily because of the explosion of the data, which you have seen over the years, especially in the last 4 to 5 years. And anytime there is explosion of data, there is also an explosion of tools to analyze. And I always think that whenever you have all these explosions, it petrifies any large enterprises, data owners, because who has access to the data, how this data gets used. What it results generally is people tend to lock their data, and the usage of the data becomes very questionable. And this is how the concept of, we looked at it as, hey, how we can help the customers to democratize the data. And through the democratization of the data comes, how do you implement governance? But taking a step back, whenever people talk about governance or data governance, the initial thought everyone gets is, hey, this is very a restrictive form. Are you going to restrict the access to the data? But we have a very counterintuitive idea on this, which is when we say as data governance, what it does is it puts the right guardrails. It provides the comfort for the data owners so that they can go and provide the right access to the right personnel so that they can drive whatever is the analytics needed around that. So we look at governance through the lens of, I would say, permissive, how to make data access to be more permissive. Well, that's interesting. The slides, let me move the slides here. So as part of that, I'll have my colleagues come and join me in talking about this. But first, I wanted to talk about why is Informatica here, because some of you guys might have heard about us. Actually, most of you would have heard about us if you are in the data space. But what do we do with AWS? One of the things with Informatica is we have invested close to $1 billion plus into the company, where we have transformed ourselves, where we have become a cloud-native solution which is powered by AWS. And today we have this business with a lot of our customers who I have mentioned here, and we go to market actually together with AWS on this. And all this is because of that strategic alignment. I know that many of the partners come and say, hey, we have a strategic alignment with AWS. I would like to define what we call a strategic alignment is. Just to give you all the context, we have been launch partners of Redshift, and Redshift itself is now almost 11 to 12 years old. So we have been partners from day one with respect to AWS, and that also partnership means we work very closely with the various services teams of AWS, joint development, joint go-to-market, how we go, and even with respect to marketplace, we try to remove the friction when it comes to how do we address the AWS customer needs across the full spectrum. And from Informatica perspective also is, when we say as cloud native, we are an AI-powered, meta-driven, all these words around what we do around discovery, catalog, understanding the data, governance, mastering all these stuff. What it also brings into capture is, think of it as we go across the spectrum of the data supply chain. And the different personas of the data professionals, how do they interact with us? And that is why when we went and looked into what is data democratization, what is our point of view, how we address data democratization, we do have a position and we do have the right tools to help you on the data democratization journey. And this is also recognized by AWS also is because we are very proud to receive these 2 awards yesterday. At reInvent, we did get the recognition from AWS on 2 categories. One is the design partner of the year. Generally, design partner means that how do you integrate and bring innovations to AWS services. So as part of that, we did announce 3 key announcements. One of them, I think you already got the plaque on it, which is we did announce our Informatica's data loader, which is available for free directly from the Redshift console. So with that, you can actually do mass ingestion directly into Redshift console so that you can drive your analytics. So that is one of our key announcements, which yesterday Jan Leshinsky, the VP of Redshift, he did the announcement as part of his session. The other key announcement, which we'll be going in depth today also, is as part of Informatica's one of our microservice, the Cloud Data Marketplace, you will see that how we integrate with ADX, AWS Data Exchange, because we are now the only vendor who can actually go and manage both the first-party customer data set and the third-party data sets from ADX through our Cloud Data Marketplace. And you'll see a demo of that, how that helps with the democratization and governance associated with that. And the third key announcement for many of the data scientists and machine language enthusiasts is we also announced our how we can bring the power of the intelligent data management cloud of Informatica directly to the developer personas through SageMaker. So we added a plugin to SageMaker so that using a couple of clicks, the developers can actually get the code associated with whether it is connectivity or whether it is with quality and all the other features as part of that. This has been months and months of work, actually years of work, which we have been doing with the products and the services of primarily the AWS data services, which got recognized yesterday as part of the Design Partner of the Year award. And the other one, the Data and Analytics Partner of the Year, this is the bread and butter of Informatica, and this is pretty much driven by customers like you, how we are able to come and address your needs, your challenges, and how we innovate with customers. So going to the next slide. Actually, as part of this, now what I'm going to do also is, now let's get into the topic. I'm going to invite Ian Stahl, who is a Senior Director for Products. He will take you through a preamble of how we think of data democratization, what is data governance as part of that, and then we'll go into a full-fledged demo and Q&A. Ian, take over. Thank you, man.
Hi, everybody. As Gopi said, my name is Ian Stahl. I'm Senior Director of Product Management for Data Governance Solutions at Informatica. I've been with Informatica for 12 years, started in the MDM space. And in fact, I was Informatica's first data governance product manager. I've been covering data governance products since 2014. Interestingly, at the time, we didn't actually have data governance products. So we would position primarily data quality, master data management, and our data security portfolio as sort of supporting infrastructure for what effectively was a people and process capability that the organization would stand up. Since then, we've come a long way. Obviously, we've introduced core capabilities like catalog, governance, quality, and marketplace that Gopi mentioned. On our cloud, on our IDMC, our data management cloud. In the meantime, the market has also moved along a lot. And this word data democratization, it's a 50-cent word. I feel like we sort of owe you guys an explanation of exactly what it is that we mean by that. And what we mean by data democratization is marshaling those capabilities on our cloud to address this disparity that's sitting on the slide right here, which is the gap between the aspiration of executive leadership in our organizations to try to be more data-driven, to leverage the fact base that's sitting in their data stores to be able to drive critical business decisions, compared with the actual data practitioners, and by the way, that's us, right? Only 30% of whom can reliably report back to our friends at IDC that they actually have confidence in the reliability and trust of the data that they're using to construct those analytics models and report. And I can tell you that when we got this report and we read through the details of what those two statistics means, we were kind of taken aback by it. Because what the implication of it was is that as the demand for data goes up in an organization to be able to distribute it into lines of business to drive these outcomes, the actual capacity of the organization to support timely and reliable data delivery actually goes down. And that's the reason why only 30% of these practitioners actually can reliably count on the data that they're using. Now, to try to reduce that friction and enable that more distributed data economy within the organization, a lot of our customers have sort of lifted and shifted their traditional on-premise data stores and data warehouses onto the cloud, right? In fact, that's why we're all here, is because we're moving all our data onto the cloud, right? That's what AWS does for us. And they stand up those lakehouse capabilities on S3 and Redshift on Lake Formation. And that's great because it simultaneously lowers the cost of storing and maintaining that data over time. So the total cost of ownership for your lake solution goes down, while simultaneously it makes data more immediately accessible, right? And that's kind of a blessing and a curse because organizations, the consumers inside of these organizations, still face many of the same barriers on the cloud that they would have faced when they were trying to source data from the data warehouse into their mart on premise. Because really it's data governance that addresses these concerns. And so all they've done is basically they've ported their data governance limitations from their on-premise solution onto their cloud solution. And this creates a number of frictions that prevent consumers from being able to get data in a timely manner. But I can net it out for you in these sort of 5 questions. I had a friend, Terry Michael, who was the head of data governance at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And she used to explain this in terms of these 5 questions. These are Terry's 5 questions, which we always think about here at Informatica, right? So first is, what data is out there? What's available that I can use to source into my analytics and use to drive my reporting? And what prevents that from being available is this lack of a central place to go discover and find relevant data. Organizations that don't have cataloging capability, that don't have a way to query the semantic content of that data, they're just stymied. They're not able to basically find relevant data, or sort of catch as catch can. And you'd be surprised at how many organizations actually don't have a single point or place to go to be able to find data within their estate. Like, you would seem like that would be like the first thing you'd want to do, but yet often it doesn't happen. Terry's second question was, is it any good? Right? So does it have the quality that I need to use for my analytics, does it have the critical data content that I need? An inability to be able to profile and score that data as it's ingested into the lake and moves out and staged into the endpoint where it can be consumed, with scorecarding that's available to everybody. So everyone is on the same page about what the quality of that data is. Can I get it? That's Terry's third question. If there's no transparency around the policies that drive access to data on your lake, consumers won't know if they can actually access that data and use it for the intended purpose for their analytics that they want to be able to drive. Should I use it? Which is actually a very germane question for a lot of analytics users. Even if the data is available for you on the lake and you can query it, is this really data that I ought to be using? Can I use this data in a manner that's consistent with the organization's internal policies or their responsibilities with regard to data privacy and protection? And then finally, how do I get it? Do I have access to the lake? Can I query it? Right? A lot of data lake teams spend a lot of their operating hours actually managing access to the lake and provisioning sort of bespoke access to different consumers throughout the organization. And this eats up a lot of their time and cost. The lack of data governance creates all of these frictions. And it doesn't just impact data consumers, because in fact, the data consumer's typical compensating behavior is to actually go upstream to the domain subject matter experts for the data that they want to query, or the data engineering teams that operate the lake on their behalf, and try to get them to basically run down the access to that data for them. And I've run into a number of customers that have sort of set up what they might call, you might call it a data center of excellence, or a kind of a service bureau, if you will. And they'll set up a ServiceNow ticketing system where you can actually send support tickets in there, and then somebody will catch that ticket and try to determine what kind of data you need based upon the information in the ticket. 6 weeks later, you might get access to the lake, or you might not. And I find that actually what happens is that creates a lot of friction and also imposes a lot of burden on the data lake operations team, which has this very perverse effect because, in fact, these people that are upstream from you, the data subject matter expert or the data engineers, they're some of the rarest and some of the most expensive resources that you have inside the company. And effectively what you've done is you've turned them into this concierge service for your data needs, right? And they have better things to be doing with their time. I mean, a subject matter expert for materials master, right? You don't get that certification from college. You have to know what's in the SAP materials master to be able to advise people on how and where to get access to that data. You come by that information by working in SAP for a long, long time. And, I've yet to encounter an organization that has a surplus of data engineers. I don't know, does anybody here have too many data engineers on their staff? I feel like everybody, nobody's never come up, nobody's ever what am I going to do with all these extra data engineers just sitting around? I guess I can just take some support tickets and we can manage some data access. No. Data engineers definitely have better things to be doing with their time. Standing up data pipelines to support machine learning that can give you advanced analytics outcomes. So governance, a little governance in front of this will actually go a long way to mitigating a lot of these frictions and allowing data consumers to be able to, to find data much more easily and then access that data in a reliable way. What's really needed to be able to do this? Well, there's a few key capabilities that you should be considering deploying on top of your lake. Data discovery and data catalog is one of them. Like I said, it's foundational. If you have an entry point where you're inventorying all of the data from across the estate, the data that's being ingested into the lake, and the data that's being staged through the lake, and the data that's being consumed out of it, then everybody has a single location to go to find that inventory of available data. They can query that. They then can start incorporating that into their analytics and machine learning models, into their consumption endpoints as they need. Data integration is the next one. I'd say that being able to automate and manage the jobs that ingest that data, stage that through your lake process, and provision that data out to endpoints where consumers can use it for their productivity outcomes, to the degree that you can automate that, leveraging, the same metadata that we have in the catalog, that's going to provide significant benefits. Ensuring the quality of that data as it's staged from source to target, as it's staged into the production zone in the lake, out into the standardized bucket, and then out into the endpoint. And then more than just profiling and scoring that data, but also surfacing that scorecard to the consumers so that they actually have visibility, they have a quantitative assessment about the quality of that data. That's going to go a long way towards giving them trust and confidence in the utilization of that data downstream. Data preparation tools that will allow the data producer to be able to take variable assets from across the lake and compose them into data products that can actually be sourced and used by consumers. They can do this on a bespoke basis, or they can prepackage data that allows consumers to be able to get exactly what they need. Data privacy, so a common set of policies and a framework of enforcement for access to data on the basis of the organization's controls. so that the lake actually can automate the flow of access to this data. And this is something that we're doing with Lake Formation as well. It's part of the solution that Gopi talked about earlier. This common framework of policies actually makes data access easier. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's kind of like a friend of mine told me who's a BMW enthusiast. He says the thing that makes his BMW go fast is it has good brakes, right? So in fact, the thing that actually facilitates access to data in the lake is you have a strong policy foundation that informs what data should be accessible to whom and for what purpose. And then that policy foundation is transparent to everybody that needs it. And data governance is really key to being able to make that happen. And what I would say is with regard to data governance, because I think data governance is also in some ways kind of a dirty word, for the practitioners out there. They're just like, can I just get past these governance, roadblocks and get to the data that I need? Again, what I'd say is it's just enough governance to facilitate the access. That's really what we're focused on. So it's, can I instrument the estate with discovery? Can I catalog and harvest that data? Can I ensure quality of it? Do I have enough policies to be able to control its access? Do I know who owns it and who's responsible for delivering it to me? And if you can answer those questions, Terry's 5 questions, that's all the governance you need. Of course, Claire's running behind the scenes. We use our AI machine learning capabilities to basically recognize patterns that are latent in the data that we're discovering and profiling. And on that basis, we can signal back what the semantic content of that data is. And this gives you a strong leg up in terms of managing these other capabilities. It's very foundational to everything that we're doing on the Intelligent Data Management Cloud. Now, you might think, for that broad base of capabilities, if you want to deploy that on the lake, that you probably need a lot of products, right? I'm a product manager, so making products is my thing. But I can say, actually, for Informatica at least, you only need one product. And that product is the Intelligent Data Management Cloud. Because the way we offer these capabilities, we don't offer them as sort of separate, bespoke microservices. What you get from Informatica is you get a suite of capabilities. You buy just enough capacity that you need to be able to manage and govern your lake. You deploy those services on top of your lake, running in the same org as your lake formation or your data lake. And then you can just use any of those capabilities as you need. And your utilization of those capabilities may change through the lifecycle of your program. You may be using a lot more data ingestion pipelines and managing your workloads that way, and you might need elasticity in the pushing of those workloads when you're starting your data lake project. But as you achieve a steady state, you might move to more kind of real-time integration and real-time access that can be driven by demand that's actually coming from the marketplace, utilizing the metadata profiling and quality to ensure the accessibility of that data for your consumers. This flexibility, the way we package the IDMC, it's what gives organizations the flexibility to basically use those services as they need them, when they need them. And when they don't need them, they just stop using them. I want to focus on kind of 3 of those capabilities because they're very germane to what we're doing with data democratization. So I'll start with Cloud Data Marketplace. As Gopi mentioned, this is the one that I've been working on. So I'll spend a lot of time talking about it. The marketplace is a sort of one-stop shop for your data consumers to be able to find curated data that's sitting in the lake that's ready for them to use. And that's an important capability. It provides if you will, an Amazon-like shopping experience that allows them to find data they want. They can take a look at what's in it, understand what it's about, answer Terry's 5 questions, and then they can just press a button. They can request it and access it. But that's not all it does. And I think one piece that people often miss about it is that the marketplace is not just about driving an experience for consumers. It's actually about connecting data producers and consumers together so that they can collaborate to get the enterprise exactly the data they need. And that's why we've built collaboration capabilities directly into the marketplace experience. You might be aware, and Scott might show this, that every data product sitting on the marketplace has a little mini Slack channel that allows you to just plug in and say, hey, I need to be able to do this, or can I get this variation of this data? And then they respond. And in fact, this collaboration actually reflects the sort of offline collaboration that's actually happening in the enterprise in real time. And in fact, generally speaking, this is how producers and consumers interact in your organization to get people the data they need. We've just put that on the marketplace now so that it's transparent to everybody, available to everybody, and auditable by everyone, so everyone knows what's going on with the data. This packaging mechanism also, by the way, is critical to the capability that we announced on Monday, the integration that we had with AWS Data Exchange. So now we can say, if you've got, say, an analytics model, and that analytics model would benefit from some third-party data that's sitting on AWS Data Exchange, you can just put those two together in the same data product. Then any analytics consumer that comes along that needs that model, they press the buy button, they get the data, they get the third-party data they can use for enrichment, and they're off to the races. Now that level of automation and the facility of that experience for data shopping, what really backs that up is a robust and enriched metadata catalog, and that's where data governance and catalog capabilities come in. We've actually provided a kind of single productivity environment that allows both technical stakeholders and business SMEs to be able to collaborate together to ensure that the metadata that we're acquiring from the estate is tagged correctly, that has the appropriate quality controls, that has the appropriate policy controls, and that it's easily accessible using common business semantics. And that's available to everybody, both producers and consumers, both the people creating the data products and the people consuming the data products. And it's on the basis of a common business language that you get to set by virtue of the fact that you're running the data governance team. And then the third key component of it is cloud data quality. Now we're actually leveraging cloud data quality as a service to automate many of the processes of profiling and scoring this data based upon rules that are set upstream by the governance team when they establish the semantic content of this data. Claire automatically does all the classification for us, and we discover critical data elements, we source the profiles, and we run the rule-based outcomes and produce the scorecard. And that scorecard effectively is presented both in the marketplace as well. So you can think of it as kind of the nutrition facts on the back of the data product, so that they actually know quantitatively, okay, this data product has these key data elements in it, it has these conformance scores, it has these validity scores, that looks like something I want. So we've actually deployed this on AWS Lake Formation. There was a session yesterday by Prudential, actually, where they talked about this, because we actually did this in cooperation with them and with our colleagues at AWS Lake Formation. Basically, the way it works is this. You're using IDMC to be able to ingest data into the lake. And coincidentally, we also deploy Cloud Catalog. Cloud Catalog can scan all of those data sources and scan the processes that are executing on IDMC to stage that data into the landing zone in the lake, and then stage that data out to the standardized bucket in S3. Because of that, we have a lineage depiction that actually shows you the provenance of that data, and then that can show you source to target information for how this data actually made its way out to that bucket, and then subsequently maybe out to the analytics endpoint. That common metadata layer with the profiling and the enrichment, the semantic tagging and the policies, that's the warehouse, that's the inventory of available data that you can package into data products on the marketplace. So that when the consumer comes along and they find the data that's relevant to their needs and they press that order button, what comes back is a signal indicating, hey, this data has demand. This data is something that I need to be able to make available. And you can provision that data out to the endpoint where the consumer needs it. Data owners and data can pre-specify different endpoints, say Athena or QuickSight. where that data could be made available to them because they've already provisioned that data. And then that access can be fully automated. So we have had customers that have dropped the actual time to delivery of data by like 95% by automating this model, by pre-specifying different endpoints where that data can be made available. But if you need to provision that data to another endpoint specifically for those consumers, say you need to be able to get it in Tableau. A lot of people use, do analytics in Tableau. You can actually stand up the provisioning process using an orchestration layer that sits in the Informatica cloud to actually extract that data from the source, provision that into a workbook, and then that workbook becomes available to the consumer as part of their consumer access grant. So you can actually just use this not just to distribute data in the lake, but to provision data out of the lake into endpoints where the consumers need it to be productive. And that's true not just for analytics consumers, so like Tableau or Power BI, but also for data pipelines that you're standing up for data science projects. You need to be able to deploy into Kubernetes containers and be able to provide that training and validation data to be able to support your model execution. All of that can happen in the lake, and increasingly we're automating a lot of these processes that previously would have required direct data operations and data engineering teams to be able to run on your behalf. Now, I could go on talking about this all morning, but in point of fact, actually, why don't we show you what it is that we've done on top of Lake Formation and with AWS Data Exchange. And for that, I'm going to bring up my colleague, Scott. Scott's going to provide a quick demonstration for us. I think you need to do a little data integration right now, right?
That's right, i.e. unplug the HDMI cable.
Data integration professional at work here, folks. It's got the HDMI cable in. Good job.
All right, so I get to do the fun part. I actually get to demo some of this so everybody can wake up a little bit and grab screenshots or take pictures or whatever they want to do. So I'm going to show you a few different personas. So I like to start when I'm looking at this. I'm going to start with my own persona. I'm a governance administrator. I had to do some care and feeding. Give you an idea of what I had to do ahead of time. What did I have to do before people can start using this? So when I first start logging into data governance, this is the first thing that I see. And you can see there's some dashboards that is showing some information. And I can completely customize those dashboards and even personalize them. So I can have a dashboard specifically to me. What are the objects I own? Or what's the activity that I'm interested in? So before I did anything, the first thing I did is I logged into an administrator screen and I scanned some sources. I scanned Oracle, I scanned Redshift, some S3 buckets, and even the pipelines between them. So I scanned our cloud data integration, Databricks, et cetera. So whatever sources out there that is moving this data, I scanned those as well. So it brought those into the data catalog. Some other things that I did is I wanted to put some business glossary terms in here as well. So I loaded business glossary terms in there. And what is going to happen now, once I start to load that, our Claire engine, our AI engine, is actually going to automatically assign those business terms into the technical assets. Okay? So it's doing that based on the data that's there, based on how I created those business terms. I could give it aliases, or even I can give it sample data in my business terms. So whatever I gave it, it went ahead and automatically assigned that. Okay? So here in my dashboard, I can see immediately, as an administrator, I'm interested in the care and feeding, what might need my attention, that sort of thing. So that's right here in the dashboard. So I jumped in here, and it's telling me, these are all the ones that I automatically assigned. It automatically assigned 149. And here I see there's a handful that might need my attention. These are business terms that it thinks it might be associated, but I need to approve or reject it. So certainly I can drill down a little bit and say, hey, show me those terms and just show me the ones that are pending. And I can see these are the ones that we're doing. And that makes sense. Here I can see it's a column named CC number, and the business term was credit card number. So I can certainly go in there and approve or reject it, et cetera. So there's certainly room for curation, for manual override. And certainly at any time I can say, hey, you missed this. I want to make sure I assign this, that sort of thing. Why did I do this? Why did I bother doing this? Because when I do this, and when Claire does this for me, it automatically starts bubbling up this information. So for example, it automatically assigned email address and first name and last name and phone number and social security number, et cetera. Well, I've already associated that to specific policies. In my case, I made it into the CCPA policy, right? Because I know that that policy is going to be related to these business terms, and then Claire has now automatically assigned these business terms to the technical assets. So right away, with very little work that I had to do, the system has now automatically said, you know what? I know what tables are pertinent to CCPA. I know what systems are pertinent to CCPA, and even down to the column, the fields, the flat file fields, JSON elements, et cetera, anything that might be related to that specific policy. And of course, CCPA is just one example, but as you can imagine, you can have all sorts of different privacy policies or really any policy. And so that is kind of the power of that Claire engine, that's doing that for me. So again, I just created a simple little dashboard that says, hey, these are the elements that contain CCPA, and these are the different objects, so flat files, tables, views, et cetera. So it'll show me all that information. So this is all good. This is all some care and feeding stuff, kind of give me an idea. But now as an administrator, this is, I always like to show this. I call it the email. You know, this is what I get. I feel like a lot of technical professionals, they get this kind of stuff. And I just got an email. Mara, she sent me an email saying, hey, I run this Tableau report once a week, everything's great. This time I ran it, and it's broken. Fix it. That's all she knows. And she gave me a little screenshot, and it's probably hard to see here, but I can see, it looks like the emails are messed up. Instead of Amazon.com, it just says Amazon.com, so it stripped the periods at some point. So clearly something's broken here. And what's important here is I did not write this report. All right, I was inherited this, so somebody else wrote it years ago, and then now I own it, so I have to troubleshoot it, I have to figure it out, et cetera. But I didn't write it, so I'm not that familiar with this report. So we're going to use the governance data catalog to sort of troubleshoot and sort of figure this out. Let's find out what might be the problem. And all I have to go on is this screenshot. And I can see the name, again, it might be a little hard to see there, but I can see the name is Products and Points. That's the name of it, some sort of report that deals with the rewards points that our customers are getting. So that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to go back into the catalog here. Right here, my main screen, of course, I can browse data. I can certainly, if I want to, waste a lot of time and browse around, I can certainly do that. But of course, there's a pretty robust search engine, so I can simply search for products and points. As you can see, as I'm typing, it remembers some of the stuff that I did. It's automatically starting to suggest some things, based on what you typed in, et cetera. But whatever, I'm just going to press enter. Give me the results, right? And of course, something went wrong because it took me a while, and so it ended up logging out in the middle of this. So products and points, a couple things come up. Not surprisingly, the first thing that came up was a Tableau worksheet called Products and Points. It's automatically right on this screen, giving me an idea. I see it's a part of the National State Enterprise Marketing. If I looked back at that screenshot, okay, this makes sense. I think this is it. So I'm going to click on this. I always like to point out on the left, it's opening different tabs. Because whenever I'm in a catalog, it's very common for us to go down rabbit holes, look around, explore around, and I always want to get back to where I was. So if I wanted to get back to that original search, it's very easy. I can click on that little magnifying glass. Hey, those were the search results, et cetera. But certainly here, I can see, somebody put a screenshot here. They just wanted to enrich the data, so if somebody finds themselves here, they can see what's going on. Unfortunately, I see who the owner is, and it's me. I'm the owner. I'm responsible for this thing. So, like I said, I didn't write the thing. So let's see if I can find some information about it. So the first thing I'm going to click on is that Lineage. Lineage is obviously very powerful. Let's take a look at this. In the case of what we're looking at here, since we're looking at a Tableau worksheet or a report, really any BI tool, it's going to show me the path that the data took to get here. I'm going to click on this and say, hey, expand all this, because I'm a big boy. I can handle all the big screen here, yeah, all of it. So here I can get a quick glimpse, and again, maybe it's a little small to see. I'll zoom in just, to kind of show us. But here I can see that this report came from this Oracle retail marketing, and then I can see that that was populated from some cloud data integration mappings, which came from this other Oracle environment, the data warehouse, et cetera. So I can kind of see that. This is good information. This is interesting, good to know, but it's not really helping me troubleshoot this. It's kind of showing me a really big picture. I can see that, yes, came from these other tables, and those were populated by those other tables, et cetera. But let's narrow it down. Let's filter it down a little bit. I saw that original screenshot. I know the problem is email. So let me filter it down to just show me the lineage of just where the email came from. So how am I going to do that? I could certainly look in here and expand, et cetera, but probably the easiest one is to see what does this products and points contain. These are the different elements that are in there. Not a ton of elements in there. If there were, I could always filter, but I can see very quickly email. So yeah, I'm interested in email. Again, it opened up another tab, so if I need to go back to that products and points, it's very easy. I don't have to, don't hit the back button. I don't want to hit the back button on a browser, but certainly I can get back there. So now when I hit Lineage, what is it going to show me? Only the lineage for that particular field. This is an easier thing to digest now. Now I'm narrowing it down. Okay, I see. Again, probably not surprisingly, it got that email from this Oracle, which came from that Oracle data warehouse, which came from the source, et cetera. All right, now I'm starting to narrow it down. Now I have an idea of this path, right? However, since I have this data governance operation, I can also put an overlay of data quality metrics. So if anybody has run any sort of data quality metrics around this, I can put that overlay right inside of this graph. So I can see where did it get bad, if it got bad at all. So right in here, I'm going to do that. I'm going to say overlay. Since I know I'm looking at invalid emails, I'm just going to focus right on validity, any validity rules that were run. So I'm going to do that, apply. Now it's redrawing it and putting that in there. So again, it's only going to put it where it's at. If somebody didn't run it on that particular column, it's not going to error or anything. There won't be anything for that. But in this case, I see some metrics here. So not surprisingly, my Tableau got it from that one data marketing Oracle database. And sure enough, it's a 24.7. That's not a great score, pretty lousy score, right? So I'm not surprised. But where did it get it from? Well, it got it from this other Oracle, the data warehouse here. Again, it's a 29% score, so it wasn't, I guess, as bad, but still pretty bad. So the problem probably isn't there, because it got bad data already. So I'm going to scroll over, keep going. All right, now we're getting somewhere. The original source data was up to 99.7, and then the next hop over is this low score. So I can probably pretty easily infer that there's something wrong with this mapping in between. All right? So let's find out who owns this, and let's yell at them. So I'm going to hover over that. I'm going to click on it. Again, opened up a new tab showing me the mapping. I can see in the upper left-hand corner, if I care to know, I can see exactly where it's at. I can see the name of the mapping task. I can see that it's in an NSEN folder within the workspace. So if I needed to find this object within data integration, oh, okay, I can see exactly where it is. And I always like to point that out, because no matter where I navigate, I look at that upper left-hand corner. I can see exactly where I am. Am I in an Oracle database? Am I in a Redshift? What schema, et cetera? I can see that. So here I can see Rajiv owns it. Rajiv Patel owns this. So now I can immediately contact him. I can do things like add comments onto this asset, and then he'll be notified, hey, somebody left a comment or question, et cetera. Right here in the system, I can certainly open up a ticket. I can, click on new and add a new ticket for this object and say, hey, something's wrong with your mapping. So here we have a few options, how I contact Rajiv, et cetera. But let's take it to the next level. I know this mapping is affecting my report, my Tableau report, but what else is it affecting, right? Maybe it's affecting a bunch of other stuff. Maybe I should contact some other people and say, hey, beware, your data might be a little, messed up right now, at least until Rajiv fixes that mapping, et cetera. So I can do this same thing. I can do lineage on that email from the mapping. So here I'm going to look at contains. There's a bunch of stuff here. I'm sure there's one called email. Sure enough. Again, opened up another tab in case I need to get back. Now I'm going to look at the lineage from this perspective. It's showing a similar view, but I always look at it as who's the center of the universe in my view. In this case, it's that one port or column within the mapping, email ID, and that's the center of the universe. So I can very quickly see who is this impacting. Again, if I care to, I can add that data quality overlay again if I can want to verify that whoever it's impacting. But sure enough, I can see it's not just impacting me and the data warehouse, but here you can see it's going off to a Snowflake data warehouse. Sure enough, Snowflake is impacted. So maybe I contact these other owners and say, yeah, there may be a problem with this data. Rajiv's working on it, et cetera. We expect to fix and so forth. So this kind of gives you an idea of what we can do with Lineage and how Lineage can sort of help us really understand the data. And again, a relatively real-world experience of my report's broken, help, what do I do? Because I ran these scans, because it captured this lineage, I'm able to see that data, et cetera. So now I'm going to switch personas for a second. I was an administrator. Now I'm going to be Anna. I don't look like an Anna. Use your imagination. Maybe she has more hair, less beard. But now I'm a data consumer. I've been given a project where I need to find data and run analysis on blood glucose levels. Okay? So as a consumer, I don't want to dive into a catalog and see everything. I want a nice, simple shopping cart experience. So as Ian mentioned, as Gopi mentioned, we have our data marketplace, and that's what I'm going to show. Let me switch over to Anna. So when she logs in here, it's a simpler interface. Not everything is here, only the things that data owners and administrators have specifically published. These are things that have been curated, checked, we're happy with it, and we feel that a lot of customers are going to want this. A lot of my customers are going to want this, the data consumers. So she looks in here. Immediately, she can see what are some recent data collections. Not surprisingly, in my demo environment, the stuff that I want is out there. But in a real-world experience, maybe it's not in there, that top 5, et cetera. I can certainly search around. I can customize these categories, or the owners can customize these categories, so I can browse around if there are categories that make sense. In my case, I'm going to search. I know I need something to do with glucose. So let's find something with glucose. If I could spell. So sure enough, I see 2 different data collections. And again, it's important to note what we're talking about here. A data collection is a package of data. Okay? So it could be one or more tables. It could be one or more data lakes, files, reports. I can mix and match. Oh, it's going to be this report plus this data lake, et cetera. So the data owner and administrator, they get to decide what is in a collection. So I kind of like the looks of this blood glucose data collection, because this seems to be what I'm looking at. So really quickly, I get an idea of, hey, who owns it? I see Connie, curator. She owns this, so she's the owner. She's the one that needs to approve it if I get this. You can see here I've got my nice checkout button. If this is good enough for me, I can click on the checkout button and off I am to the races. I am a little more curious. I want to see what else is going on here. So what's in this data collection? Oh, I see 2 different data assets. So one of them, looks like it's a third party and a first party. So if I click on that third party, I want to dig a little deeper. Oh, I see. So what this is a third party data that Connie actually published from AWS Data Exchange. So she actually subscribed to this particular data exchange, brought it over here, and then combined it with our data, the first party data. So you can see that collection I can have multiple things all together. So in this case, I have something from Data Exchange, I have something from here. If I want to dig deeper, I can certainly dig deeper. I click on this link, and it's going to open it up in Data Catalog. So again, I want my cake and eat it too. I want an interface that's going to be sufficient for maybe a less technical user that says, I just need the data. I don't need to know everything about the data. But I also want to accommodate a more technical user that does want to dive deep. I want to click on the lineage. I want to see where it came from, et cetera. So I want to accommodate both of these. So what we've done here in this particular one, if I go back to that glucose level, I'm ready to check out now. I want to check out. So what this interface is doing for us is it's going to allow us to authenticate that. So when she checks this out, now Connie will have to approve it, but we've also automated the delivery mechanism of it. So what that means is once she approves it, it's going to go in and it's going to approve it, or it's going to fulfill that order. So before I check out, I'm going to go to Athena here, and I want to make sure if I go into my Athena, I can see these are the tables that I have access to, and I don't have access to anything, because I want to show that this automation is going to happen right now, right in front of us, hopefully. So if I go in here, let's go ahead and check this out. It's going to ask me to do a few questions. Hey, what are you using this for? Is there some business justification? Need to compare blood glucose monitoring, et cetera, et cetera. What's my delivery target? Again, the data owner has decided what are appropriate delivery targets. Do I want it in an S3 bucket? Do I want it in a Redshift? Do I want it in, any sort of delivery mechanism that we can think of? In this case, not surprisingly, we're doing it in AWS Lake Formation. Great, this looks good. Click on Next. Since this data contains some private data, the data owner has also put some restrictions on here to make sure that they acknowledge that this is the usage context that we can do here. This is what you're not allowed to do. This is what you are allowed to do. And these can be links too. So if I need to dig deeper and say, what am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do, et cetera. So obviously I can't submit it until I agree to these terms of use. Click Submit, and now it's going to submit the order. It's going to create an order. So now Connie is minding her own business. Connie gets an email and says, hey, somebody has requested this data. You need to have a look. You have a task. So here, let me switch over to Connie. If I look at my tasks, I can see, there's a few things here. I can see one's from Anna. Ian still has an order. We haven't decided if he's worthy of getting that yet, but we'll just focus on Anna for now. So sure enough, I see the thing that she gave here. If I want to, I can put comments here. So if there's some discussion, some back and forth, wait, I wasn't aware of this project. Who the heck are you? Whatever the comment is. But let's just say I'm going to approve it for now. Approved. You should be able to access these objects shortly. Great. Approve. So now when I do this, now Anna's going to be notified that, hey, somebody has done something with the order that you just did. So if I go to Anna, I can see my notifications up here. Somebody granted me access. Sure enough, I can see the whole chain of events that has happened here, et cetera. And now let's go over to Athena. Let's refresh this. Sure enough, I now have access to these tables. So literally what we've done in the back end is we've automated that. So the moment it sees that it's been approved, go ahead and grant access to this existing data lake. So not only is this managing the workflow, the approval process, et cetera, not only is it automating the actual provisioning of it, if you so choose, but it's also a record of who has access to it. So for example, if I'm Connie over here and I want to go back and take a look at this blood glucose level, I can very quickly and easily see who has access to it. So now this becomes an auditing mechanism. Who has access to this data? So if some project comes up and some manager says, you know what, we need to revoke all this access to everybody, they need to re-justify whatever it is, I know exactly who has access to this. Okay? And then when I withdraw that access, I can do that right in here. I can click on a button and say, I'm withdrawing the access. So again, they are notified that your access has been withdrawn. All right. That is the end of my dog and pony show. Any questions for me, for Ian, for Gopi?